Okay, I want to start today with a visual. I want you to picture two men standing side by side.
All right, I'm with you.
On the left, we have Michael Phelps. And look, even if you don't follow sports at all, you know the name, you know the silhouette. The guy is essentially a human albatross.
He really is.
28 Olympic medals. I mean, that's a number that doesn't even sound real. He's the most decorated Olympian of all time. He is, for all intents and purposes, a machine designed specifically to displace water.
That's a very apt description. I mean, he's the apex predator of the swimming pool. There's him, and then there's everyone else.
Right, so that's our guy on the left. Now, standing next to him on the right, let's place Hicham El Guerrouj.
Ah, okay.
Now, I'll be totally honest, before we started digging into this stack of research, I wasn't nearly as familiar with him as I was with Phelps. He's not quite a household name in the same way, at least not here.
Which is a shame, honestly. It really is. Because in the world of track and field, El Guerrouj is, well, he's a deity. He's Moroccan, a middle-distance runner who just completely redefined what the human body can do.
In what events specifically?
The mile and the 1,500-meter.
Yeah.
He held world records for years that people, they genuinely thought were untouchable. They were like statistical anomalies.
Right.
So you're not wrong to put them side by side. You have the god of the water and the god of the track.
Okay, so we have these two absolute titans of their sports, legends. But here is the visual discrepancy that I just can't get out of my head. We are looking at them side by side.
Okay.
Michael Phelps stands 6 feet 4 inches tall.
A giant.
Ah.
Especially for a swimmer, that wingspan is everything.
Exactly. And El Guerrouj, he's 5 feet 9 inches.
Ow.
That is a 7-inch difference. In the world of elite athletics, that's not just a gap. That's a different species. You're looking at two completely different blueprints for a human.
It's a massive difference. You're talking about a tower versus a compact engine. Totally different physical profiles.
But here is the fact. This is the single sentence that dragged me down the rabbit hole for this entire deep dive. This is the thing I kept double-checking in the notes because I genuinely thought it was a typo.
Oh, this sounds good.
Despite Michael Phelps being 7 inches taller than Hicham El Guerrouj, they wear the exact same length inseam on their pants.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Same. Inseam length.
No, that can't be right. It does sound like a typo, doesn't it?
It sounds like a geometry error. How is that physically possible? Is Phelps just entirely neck? Like, what is going on with his body?
It's not neck, it's torso. And this isn't just a quirky trivia fact. It is the fundamental biomechanical reason why they are so utterly dominant in their respective fields.
Okay, break that down for me, the torso thing.
See, Phelps has relatively short legs for his height, but his torso is incredibly, almost freakishly long. If you look at him in the water, that long torso acts like the hull of a racing yacht or a canoe.
It's purely for hydrodynamics. It's like he's a boat.
He is a boat. It increases his waterline length. In naval architecture, apparently in Olympic swimming, a longer hull allows for greater speed and efficiency through the water. He floats higher. He has less drag. He is quite literally built to plane over the surface of the water while everyone else is sort of, plowing through it.
Okay, so he's all hull, no anchor. I get that.
And then you pivot to El Guerrouj. He is the complete inverse of that design. He is 5'9", but he is almost all legs. He has this incredibly short upper body and these long, powerful legs. And for running, that is biomechanical gold.
Because you don't want to be carrying a suitcase on your chest while you're trying to run a mile.
Precisely, you said it perfectly. In distance running, your upper body is essentially dead weight. It's cargo. It's necessary cargo. You need lungs and a heart. But it's still weight you have to carry against gravity with every single step.
So you want to minimize it.
You want to minimize it. You want long levers, your legs, to generate stride length and power, but you want the minimum possible mass above the waist to reduce the metabolic costs of carrying it. El Guerrouj is built like a pair of lungs on top of stilts. Phelps is a canoe. Two perfect designs for two totally different environments.
So this leads us to the obvious thought experiment, and I love doing this, the Freaky Friday scenario.
I know where this is going.
We take Michael Phelps at the absolute peak of his powers, let's say 2008 Beijing Olympics Phelps, when he won 8 gold medals, and we drop him onto the track to run the 1,500-meter against a peak El Guerrouj.
It wouldn't be a race. It would be a tragedy, a public humiliation.
But hold on, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. Phelps has the lung capacity of a whale. His VO2 max is legendary, it's off the charts. The man knows how to suffer. He has a pain threshold that is borderline superhuman. Surely he could just power through a mile.
Oh, he could finish the mile, certainly. He's an elite athlete.
Right.
But compete? No, Not even close. The physics simply don't allow it. It's not about willpower at that point.
What are the numbers?
At his peak racing weight, Phelps was about 194 pounds.
Okay, which for a guy who's 6'4" is pretty lean.
Very lean. But El Guerrouj competed at 138 pounds.
Whoa.
That is a 56-pound difference. That's roughly 40% more body mass that Phelps has to move. In distance running, every single pound you carry is a penalty. It is energy you have to expend to fight gravity with every stride.
So it's not just 56 pounds. It's 56 pounds he has to lift off the ground thousands of times.
Thousands of times. Phelps would be dragging an invisible suitcase filled with bricks. He would be doomed from the starter's pistol, and it would have nothing to do with his work ethic.
Okay, that's fair. Gravity is undefeated. So let's flip it. El Guerrouj puts on the Speedo and the swim cap. He dives into the pool in the lane next to Phelps. He's got the cardio. He's light. Does he have a shot?
He might actually drown. I'm joking, but only slightly. Look, the data here is just as brutal. Since 1976, the average height of an Olympic gold medalist in the men's 100-meter freestyle is 6 feet 4 inches.
Which is exactly Phelps's height.
It's exactly Phelps's height. Swimming is a leverage game. It's a game of power and pull. You need a long back and long arms, that massive wingspan, to reach out and pull huge amounts of water. It's about catching as much liquid as you can and throwing it behind you.
It's about displacement.
Right. And El Guerrouj, at 5'9", with his shorter torso and arms, he simply lacks the skeletal structure to generate that kind of propulsion. He's paddling with a teaspoon while Phelps is paddling with a giant shovel. It's a mismatch of equipment.
This is, well, on one hand, it's fascinating from a science perspective, but on the other hand, it's kind of depressing, isn't it?
How so? What part is depressing?
Well, we love the narrative of hard work conquers all, you know, the American dream, the Rocky story, the idea that if El Guerrouj just swam enough laps 10 hours a day, or if Phelps just ran enough miles, they could brute force their way to gold in the other sport.
The grind-it-out mentality.
Exactly. But the source material we're looking at today is hitting us with a pretty cold, hard reality. It feels like it's saying, the secret to success isn't just grind harder, it's choose the game you were rigged to win from birth.
See, I wouldn't call it depressing, I'd call it liberating. But you've absolutely hit on the core theme of this deep dive. We aren't really talking about sports today, are we?
Not at all.
We're using sports as a perfect, clean-cut metaphor to talk about something much, much messier. Talent, genetics, and maybe most importantly, context.
Right. And before you, the listener, tune out thinking, well, I'm not trying to win a gold medal. I'm just trying to get a promotion or, learn Spanish. Stick with us because this applies to your career, your hobbies, your relationships, your habits, and honestly, your mental health.
The mission today is to explore how to align your habits with your natural inclinations. We want to stop fighting our own biology. We want to stop swimming upstream.
But let's address the elephant in the room immediately because this topic makes people really uncomfortable. When we started reading through the source material, I felt a little defensive myself.
That is the standard, almost universal reaction to the idea of biological determinism.
Yeah. It feels unfair. It feels like we're saying, sorry, you were born this way, so you're destined to fail, or you were born that way, so you get a free pass. It feels like it invalidates effort. If my genes decide everything, why should I even bother waking up early? Why try?
And that is the danger of a shallow reading of this topic. Biological determinism is a scary phrase because it implies a script that you can't rewrite. It sounds like fate. But the sources we're analyzing today, including insights from people like the physician Gabor Mate, offer a much more nuanced and, I think, empowering view.
Which is what?
It's not about destiny. It's about opportunity cost. It's about strategy.
There's a quote in the research I've got highlighted here. Genes can predispose, but they don't predetermine.
That distinction is the whole ballgame. That's everything. Predisposition is a nudge. It's a tailwind. Predetermination is a command. It's a set of rails you can't get off of.
So my genes give me a starting hand of cards, but I still have to play the game.
A perfect analogy. Your genes provide the raw materials. But the environment, the context, determines the value of those materials. Let's go back to the height example because it's so clear. If you want to be a professional basketball player, being 7 feet tall is a winning lottery ticket.
Of course. You're halfway to the rim just standing there. You can touch the net without jumping.
It's an almost insurmountable advantage. But now, take that exact same genetic trait, being 7 feet tall, and place it in the context of competitive gymnastics.
Oh, it's an absolute nightmare. You'd be hitting your head on the ceiling. You couldn't do a somersault. You couldn't tuck. It's a disaster.
It is a great hindrance, as the text says. It's a massive liability. The gene didn't change, the person didn't change, the context changed. In one room, your height makes you a god. In the other room, it makes you a clumsy giant. The raw material is only as good as the game you choose to play.
And it's not just physical. The source points out that mental traits follow the same rule. Being smart about habits doesn't make you smart about, knitting or rocket propulsion.
Exactly. Smart is contextual. The source material uses an analogy here that I think is just brilliant in its simplicity. It's the potato and egg rule.
Yes, I love this. Boiling water will soften a potato but harden an egg.
It's so simple, but it's so profound, isn't it? Let's apply that to a real-life situation. Because most of us aren't jumping into boiling water literally, I hope.
Let's hope not.
Think about a high-pressure, super aggressive sales environment. In a boiler room style, commission-only, constant rejection. That environment is the boiling water.
Okay, I can picture it. Very Glengarry Glen Ross.
Exactly. Now, if you are the potato, maybe you're someone who is naturally empathetic, a bit soft-spoken, you need time to process. You're highly sensitive to conflict. That environment is going to turn you into mush. You will burn out. You will crumble. The water destroys you.
But if you are the egg...
You are naturally competitive, thick-skinned, maybe a bit aggressive yourself. Maybe you thrive on that kind of pressure. That same boiling water hardens you. It makes you sharper. It makes you tougher. You thrive in the heat.
So the mistake we all make is trying to change our fundamental chemical composition. The potato stands there in the boiling water screaming, "Why can't I be an egg? I just need to manifest being an egg. I need a better mindset."
Correct. And you can't. You're a potato. The strategy shouldn't be try to become an egg. The strategy should be get out of the boiling water and go find a mashed potato competition, or a library, or a counseling center. You have to control the environment, because you can't control whether you're a potato or an egg.
So if we accept that we can't really change our hardware, our height, our bone structure, our basic wiring, we have to get really, really good at environment design. But let's go deeper than just the physical. Because frankly, I can look in the mirror and see if I'm tall or short. I can see if I have a swimmer's body. But what about my brain? What about my personality?
This is where it gets trickier, and frankly, a lot more controversial for some people.
Yeah.
We are moving from visible physical traits to invisible psychological traits.
We're talking about the big five.
The big five. This is, for all intents and purposes, the gold standard in modern psychology for mapping personality.
Yeah.
For a long, long time, we treated personality as this fluffy, malleable thing that was totally a result of how you were raised. It was all nurture over nature.
Right, the blank slate theory.
The blank slate, exactly.
Wow.
But the science over the last few decades has shifted that balance significantly. We now know there's a huge genetic component to these core personality traits.
Okay, let's break these down, because I think everyone listening, and us included, needs to sort of figure out where we sit on these sliders. It's a really useful framework.
It is. So imagine a sound mixing board in a recording studio. You have 5 main sliders, and everyone has a different setting. The first is openness to experience.
Curiosity.
Curiosity, creativity, imagination. On the high end, you have the artists, the travelers, the entrepreneurs, the people who want to try the weird new item on the menu. On the low end, you have people who value routine, tradition, and predictability. They like what they know.
I'm definitely high on openness. If there's a button I haven't pressed, I want to press it just to see what happens.
Which fits your role here perfectly. Okay, second slider is conscientiousness. This is basically the adulting slider.
I'm scared of this one.
High scorers are organized, efficient, disciplined. They make lists. They meet deadlines. Low scorers are more spontaneous, easygoing, sometimes messy, maybe a bit more chaotic.
I plead the fifth on that one. Let's move on.
Third is extroversion. We all kind of know this one. It's not about being loud. It's about energy. Do you get energy from being around people? Or does social interaction drain your battery?
And fourth is agreeableness. This one's interesting.
It is. Are you naturally compassionate, trusting, and polite? Do you prioritize group harmony? Or are you more competitive, critical, skeptical, and willing to challenge others?
Neither is inherently better, right? You need both types in the world.
Absolutely. You need the challenger as much as you need the peacemaker. And the last one is the heavy hitter, the one with the most baggage.
Neuroticism.
Neuroticism. This ranges from anxious, sensitive, and moody on the high end to calm, confident, and emotionally stable on the low end.
Okay, so we have these 5 traits. And the old school thinking was, if you want to be successful, just decide to be more conscientious, decide to be less neurotic, just change your settings. But the sources are bringing some heavy receipts, some pretty compelling biological evidence that says it's not really a choice.
The biological evidence is startling, and it really forces you to rethink things. Let's look at extroversion. There was a famous longitudinal study done, meaning they tracked people over a long, long time, starting with newborns in nursing wards.
Wait, how do you test if a baby is an extrovert? They can't even talk, let alone go to a party.
You don't ask them. You test their biological reaction to stimulation. The scientists would play loud noises or wave colorful, jangling objects in front of these tiny babies, and they observed a very specific, very clear split in behavior.
Okay.
Some babies turned toward the noise. They quieted down. They were interested. Their heart rate would stabilize. They wanted to investigate the source of the chaos.
They were drawn to the fire. They wanted more input.
Exactly. But other babies, a different group, turned away from the loud noise. They would cry. They'd scrunch up their faces. They were trying to physically shut out the stimulation. It was too much for their system.
And let me guess, the ones who turned toward the noise grew up to be the life of the party.
Precisely. The babies who sought out stimulation grew up to be extroverts. The babies who turned away, who were easily overstimulated, grew up to be introverts. And this makes perfect sense when you understand what introversion really is.
But not shyness.
It is not shyness.
Yeah.
It's a huge misconception. It's a lower biological threshold for arousal. An introvert's brain is literally more sensitive to dopamine and to external stimulation. They don't need the loud party to feel good. The loud party is effectively screaming at their nervous system. A quiet room is already stimulating enough.
That is wild. It's just hardware. It's literally how your brain processes volume and input from the moment you're born. It's not a personality flaw.
Not at all. Or take agreeableness. There is a strong, well-documented correlation between people who score high on agreeableness and their natural baseline levels of the hormone oxytocin.
The cuddle hormone or the bonding hormone.
Right. If you are a high agreeable person, your brain is chemically rewarding you for social connection, for trusting people, for writing thank you notes. It feels good to you. If you are low agreeable, you don't get that same chemical hit from pro-social behaviors. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're not wired for that kind of default trust.
And what about neuroticism? Because I feel like this is the one people judge themselves for the most. Why am I so anxious all the time? Why can't I just chill out like everyone else?
Neuroticism is fascinating. It's strongly linked to the sensitivity of the amygdala.
The brain's threat detector.
That's the one, the almond-shaped part of your brain that's constantly scanning for danger. If you are high in neuroticism, you basically have a hypersensitive smoke detector in your brain.
It goes off when you burn the toast.
Exactly. It screams fire when it's just a little bit of smoke. Whereas a low neurotic person's smoke detector only goes off when the house is actually legitimately on fire. So if you are high neurotic, you aren't choosing to be negative or to worry. Your brain is literally shouting danger at you 100 times a day over things other people don't even notice.
I have to play the skeptic here, though. I have to push back. Because this sounds, well, it sounds like a fantastic excuse for bad behavior.
I was waiting for this.
Right. Honey, I'm not a jerk. I just have low oxytocin. Or, boss, I didn't finish the report because my amygdala is spicy today. Can we really just blame biology for everything and absolve ourselves of all responsibility?
No, and that is where we have to be extremely careful. This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Biology explains the impulse, but it doesn't excuse the action. You are still responsible for how you manage your impulses.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction.
But understanding the biology helps us stop fighting a losing battle. It helps us use better strategies.
What do you mean by that, a better strategy?
Well, let's go back to habit formation, which is the whole point of this. If you are low on conscientiousness, you're naturally messy and spontaneous, and you try to adopt a habit routine that requires rigid, military-style discipline and a perfectly organized calendar, you are going to fail. And you're going to hate yourself for failing.
Because you're a potato trying to be an egg. You're trying to run a marathon with a swimmer's body.
Exactly. You are swimming upstream against your own neurochemistry. So the advice isn't give up on being productive. The advice is design a system that works for a spontaneous person. Maybe you use sticky notes instead of a rigid calendar. Maybe you work in chaotic bursts of energy. You design around the trait instead of fighting it.
Or fitness. If you hate the gym because you're an introvert and it's too loud and there are too many people, don't force yourself to go to the gym.
Yes. Don't conclude, I hate exercise. Conclude, I hate that specific environment for exercise. Buy a home setup. Go running in the woods. Go rock climbing. Find the movement that fits your brain.
This applies to reading, too. This one really hits home for me. I know so many people who think reading only counts if it's some dense, nonfiction book about economics or a biography of a president.
The should reading list.
The shoulds, exactly. So they slog through a chapter, fall asleep after 2 pages, and do this for a month, and then they conclude, I'm just not a reader.
No, you're just a reader who is currently bored out of their mind. The Big Five approach says, figure out your personality. If you score high on openness to experience, maybe read sci-fi, read fantasy, read weird experimental poetry.
If you like steamy, trashy romance novels, read steamy, trashy romance novels. It's still reading.
Yes, 1,000 times, yes. Habits need to be enjoyable if they're going to stick. That is the key takeaway from this whole section. Stop trying to copy the habits of people who have different brain chemistry than you. It's like trying to run their software on your hardware. It won't work.
Okay, so this is all making a lot of sense. We've established that we need to align with our nature. We need to know if we are a potato or an egg. But here is the massive practical problem. I don't think most people actually know what they are, you know? Self-awareness is a surprisingly rare commodity. We're told our whole lives what we should be.
We're told by parents, teachers, society. We internalize those messages. It's hard to find the original signal through all that noise.
Right. And life is short. I can't spend 40 years testing every single career path and every single hobby just to find the one where my oxytocin levels are optimal. I need a shortcut. How do we solve the trial and error problem without wasting our entire lives?
This is a great question. And this is where we can steal a really elegant concept from computer science and mathematics. It's called the explore-exploit trade-off.
I love when we get to apply geeky math concepts to real life. It makes me feel smart. But you have to break this down because explore, exploit sounds like a colonial video game.
It does, doesn't it? It actually comes from a classic thought experiment in probability theory called the multi-armed bandit problem.
The what?
The multi-armed bandit. Imagine you are in a casino. You're standing in front of a long row of slot machines.
Okay, I'm listening. I like casinos.
You have a limited number of coins in your pocket. You know that each machine pays out at a different random rate. One of them is the loose machine that pays out the big jackpot, but you don't know which one it is. So what is the optimal strategy to maximize your winnings?
Well, I wouldn't just dump all my coins into the first machine. That seems dumb. I'd probably put a few coins in each one to, see what happens, test them out.
That is the exploration phase. You are gathering information. You are spending some of your coins to buy data. But here's the trade-off. If you spend all your coins just testing every single machine, you'll run out of money before you make a real profit.
Right, I'll end up with nothing.
So eventually you have to pick the machine that seems to be paying out the best so far, and you have to pull that lever over and over and over again.
And that is the exploitation phase.
Exactly. And the real genius of it is that the math, specifically something called Gittin's index, if you want to get really technical, can actually calculate the optimal moment to switch from exploring to exploiting.
So how does this apply to my career or my life? I'm not playing slot machines.
Think of your 20s. Your 20s should be the exploration phase. The goal in your 20s shouldn't necessarily be make the most money or find your one true passion. It should be maximize information. Try the corporate job, try the startup, live in a different city, try the weird side hustle, date different types of people. You're casting a wide net to see which slot machine in life pays out for your specific personality.
But you can't explore forever. I think we all know people who are in their 40s and are still finding themselves, and at some point it starts to look less like exploration and more like flaking.
Right. And the math supports that intuition. Eventually the data says you must switch to exploitation. Once you find a solution that works a career you're good at and that you find satisfying, a partner you love, a city you feel at home in, you need to stop looking and start building. You exploit the gold mine you found. You dig deep.
But is it a hard switch? Is it like, okay, I turned 30, time to turn off curiosity forever? That sounds terrible.
No, and that's a key nuance. The most effective long-term strategy seems to be a continuous, low-level exploration, even while you are primarily exploiting. And the best real-world example of this is Google.
Ah, the famous 80-20 rule.
Exactly. For years, Google famously told its engineers, spend 80% of your time on your core job. Search, ads, mail. That is exploitation. That pays the bills. That's the winning slot machine. But spend 20% of your time on whatever you want. Tinker. Follow your curiosity. Explore.
And that wasn't just wasted time, a fun perk. It actually produced results.
Far from it. That 20% exploration time gave us Gmail. It gave us Google News. It gave us AdSense, which became a multi-billion-dollar product. Some of the biggest blockbusters came from the side bits from the exploration. So for you, the listener, The lesson is, find your main thing and work hard at it. That's your 80%. But always keep 20% of your energy for trying new things. Reading a book outside your field, taking a class. Keep testing the waters.
The source material also mentions a really interesting dynamic about when to switch between the two based on winning versus losing.
Yes, this is a great heuristic for when you feel stuck in life. It's very simple. If you are currently winning, you're getting promotions, your relationship is happy, your fitness is improving, things are going well, the math says, exploit, 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 exploit. Don't change anything. Don't shake up the team when you're on a winning streak. Double down on what's working.
Boring, but effective. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But if you are currently losing, if you hate your job, if you're stuck in a rut, if your current strategy is clearly not working, you must explore. The opportunity cost of switching is low because your current situation isn't paying out anyway. If you are failing, increasing variance is your friend. Cast the net again. Try something totally different.
There's also the time horizon factor.
A huge factor. If you have a long time left to play the game, like when you're 22, it makes all the sense in the world to explore. The potential payoff for finding the absolute perfect career for you is massive over the next 40 years. But if you have a short time horizon, a project is due Friday, you don't have time to explore new software. You exploit the solution you already know, even if it's not perfect.
Okay, so we explore to find our talents, and then we exploit them. But let's get really specific, because explore is still kind of a vague verb. The source material offers a sort of internal audit. There are 4 specific questions to ask yourself to help identify those hidden strengths. I want to walk through these, and I want us to actually try to answer them for ourselves.
Let's do it. These are excellent diagnostic tools, very powerful.
All right, question 1. What feels like fun to me but work to others?
This is such a subtle and important question. It's not just what do you love. Everyone loves eating pizza and watching Netflix. That's not a talent, that's just consumption.
Right. It has to be productive in some way.
It's about your relationship with the necessary pain of a task. Every job, even a dream job, has drudgery. The mark of a true talent is that you can handle the drudgery of that specific task better than the average person. You might even enjoy it.
Okay, for me, I think it's organizing things. Like organizing files, planning a project, going through raw audio files and editing them. Most people look at a messy waveform and want to cry. They hate the tediousness of cutting out ums and ahs. I find it weirdly meditative. I can do it for 6 hours and it feels like one.
That is a huge signal. That's a massive green flag. You are swimming downhill while others are swimming upstream. For me, it's reading dense, boring academic papers. Most people see a 40-page PDF with footnotes and their eyes glaze over. I get excited. I see a treasure hunt. I want to find the one hidden insight. Others see it as a chore. I see it as a game.
You're a masochist, but I respect it. Okay, question 2. What makes me lose track of time?
We're talking about the psychological state of flow. Csikszentmihalyi's work, that mental state where the world just fades away. You're so absorbed in the task, you look up at the clock thinking it's been 20 minutes and 3 hours have passed.
I used to get this when I played video games as a kid, but I assume that doesn't count as a career skill.
Well, maybe not the gaming itself, but what about the game got you into flow? Was it the strategy, the fast-paced problem solving, the teamwork? The research suggests it is nearly impossible to be in a flow state and not find the task deeply satisfying. If you are entering flow, you have found a perfect match between the challenge of the task and your current skill level. It's a sign that you're in the right place.
Okay, that's a good reframe. Question 3. Where do I get greater returns than the average person?
This one appeals to our vanity a little bit, but it's a very useful, objective metric. The author of one of our sources shares a story about starting his email list. When he started writing online, his list just grew faster than his peers' list did.
It creates a positive feedback loop, right?
A powerful one. He wasn't entirely sure why it was growing faster, but the fact that he was getting outsized results for the same amount of effort was incredibly motivating. It told him, hey, there's something here, keep digging.
It's like going to the gym. If you and I both start lifting and we do the exact same workout for a month, and at the end you've gained 5 pounds of muscle and I've gained 0, you are going to be very motivated to keep lifting. I'm going to quit.
And you should quit.
All right.
Or at least you should stop trying to be a bodybuilder and find something where your body responds better. Maybe you're built for endurance.
Yeah.
Follow the ROI. Your body, your career, it tells you what it's good at.
And finally, the 4th and maybe the toughest one, question 4. What comes naturally to me?
This is the hardest one because it requires stripping away decades of social expectations. You have to ignore what your parents wanted you to be, ignore what looks cool on LinkedIn, ignore what your friends think is prestigious.
It's the litmus test of authenticity, the source calls it.
Yes. And the question to find that is, when do I feel like the real me? When do I feel like I'm not wearing a mask or playing a role? For some people, that's in front of a crowd. For others, it's alone in a workshop. That feeling of authenticity is your true north.
Okay, so let's say I do all this. I do the internal audit, I check my big five, I run some exploit experiments, and I come to a horrible, sinking realization.
Oh boy.
I realize I'm just okay at a bunch of things. I'm not Michael Phelps at anything. I'm not El Guerrouj. I'm fairly smart, but I'm not a genius. I'm fairly funny, but I'm not a professional comedian. I'm
Average. Welcome to the club. That is 99% of the human population. Very few people are born genetic outliers in one specific domain.
So what do I do? Do I just accept a life of mediocrity? Here lies a solid B-plus student. Is that my fate?
Absolutely not. This is where strategy gets really, really creative. This is my favorite part of the whole deep dive. If you can't win the existing game by being the best, you change the rules. You invent your own game. You look at the Scott Adams formula.
Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip.
Right. No, regardless of what you may think of his politics or his later years, his early career analysis of his own talent is absolutely brilliant. He did this internal audit on himself.
What did he find?
He asked, "Am I a great artist?" The answer was no. He can draw better than the average person, sure, but he's not getting into the Louvre. In the world of professional art, he's mediocre.
Okay, fair enough.
Then he asked, "Am I exceptionally funny?" And again, the answer was no. He's funnier than most accountants, probably, but he's not Richard Pryor. He's not a superstar stand-up comedian. Again, in that world, he's somewhat mediocre.
And he had a background in corporate business, an MBA, which is incredibly common. Millions of people have that.
So he has these three average skills. He's maybe in the 75th percentile for drawing, the 75th for humor, and the 75th for business knowledge. But here is the magic. When he stacks those three average skills on top of each other, what do you get?
You get Dilbert?
You get a corporate satire comic strip. And in that specific narrow intersection, he is the best in the world. He's a category of one. There are far better artists, but they don't understand the soul-crushing bureaucracy of office life. There are better business people, but they can't draw or tell a joke.
It's the combination that creates the monopoly. It's skill synergy.
Exactly. This is called talent stacking. The math on this is really compelling. It is incredibly hard to be in the top 1% of the world in one field. The competition is insane. But it's actually quite easy to be in the top 25% of 3 or 4 different fields with some effort.
So the advice is, don't try to be the best. Try to be the only.
Be the only. Create a category where you are the sole competitor. The author of one of our sources gives a great personal example, too. In college, he didn't want to compete with the geniuses, so he designed his own major called biomechanics.
Which, on the surface, sounds incredibly smart and difficult.
It does. It sounds like he must be a genius, but he openly admits he did it because he wasn't smart enough to be the top physics major, and he wasn't smart enough to be the top biology major. The competition was too stiff. So he combined physics, chemistry, biology, and anatomy into his own unique thing.
He curated his own game so he couldn't lose.
He was a category of one. And because he created the category, he avoided comparison. No one else was taking that specific combo, so who could say if he was better or worse? He was the only one playing. And studying felt less like a chore because it was curated specifically to his interests.
There's one more analogy in this section that I think really hammers this home with a physical example. The arm wrestling bodybuilder.
This is a classic example of specialization. Imagine a massive bodybuilder, you know the type. Huge muscles, veins popping, looks like he could lift a truck. He sits down at a table to arm wrestle a guy who is half his size, maybe 150 pounds soaking wet. But that small guy is a professional arm wrestling champion.
My brain, my gut instinct says the giant wins. He's just so much stronger.
And your brain would be wrong. The small guy wins almost every single time. And the question is why? The bodybuilder has general strength. He's strong everywhere. But the arm wrestler has specific strength. He has trained his hand, his wrist, his forearm tendons, his leverage points, specifically for that one single motion.
So specific strength beats general strength.
Specialization overcomes genetic disadvantages. Even if you have bad genetics in a general sense, like being small, if you hyper-specialize in one tiny niche, you can beat the giant who is just generally good at everything. Find your one move.
We've covered a ton of ground here. I mean, from swimming pools to babies turning their heads in a hospital to slot machines in a casino. But I want to close with one final important pushback, because I can still hear a cynical listener out there.
I know you mean the hard work defender.
Yeah. They're sitting there thinking, okay, you guys have spent an hour talking about genes and talent and body types and personality. Does this mean hard work is dead? Does this mean if I'm not a potato that's thriving in boiling water, I should just give up and sit on the couch?
This is the most critical clarification of the entire deep dive. If people walk away with the wrong message here, we've failed. Genes do not eliminate the need for hard work. They clarify what to work hard on.
Explain that distinction. It's really important.
Think about Michael Phelps again. Yes, he has the perfect swimmer's torso. Yes, he has the insane wingspan. He won the genetic lottery for swimming. But if he sat on the couch eating chips his whole life, would he be an Olympian?
No, of course not. He'd just be a tall guy with a long torso who is good at reaching the top shelf at the grocery store.
Exactly. Phelps trained 365 days a year for years on end. He swam thousands upon thousands of miles. He worked ferociously, inhumanly hard. But his genes made sure that every single hour of that hard work yielded the maximum possible return.
That's the key. It's a multiplier effect. If I, with my very average torso, worked as hard as Phelps in the pool, I would get better at swimming, I would. But I wouldn't get as good as he got from that same hour of work. My return on investment is lower because my hardware isn't optimized for it.
Correct. Your genes, in a sense, set the ceiling, your maximum potential in a given field. But, and this is a huge, massive but, most people never work hard enough to even bump up against that ceiling.
We worry about our genetic limits long before we've actually reached them. We say things like, oh, I'm just not talented enough to write a book, when we haven't even written a single page yet.
Exactly. We use "I don't have the talent" as a preemptive excuse not to start, not to do the hard work. The reality is you don't actually know what your genetic limit is until you are working as hard as the people you admire in that field.
That's a powerful call to action. I want to repeat that. Until you work as hard as those you admire, don't explain away their success as luck.
Luck is involved. Of course it is. Phelps was lucky to be born with that body. El Guerrouj was lucky. But luck just implies opportunity. Success requires utilizing that opportunity with relentless effort.
So let's bring this all together. We've been on quite a journey. If you, the listener, are going to take away just a few key points from this deep dive, what are they?
Okay, summary time. First, context is king. You are a potato or an egg. Don't curse your softness or your hardness. Find the water that suits you. If you are failing or burning out, check your environment before you blame your character.
Second, align your life with your big 5 personality traits. Don't force habits that make you miserable just because they're popular. If you're an introvert, don't build a life that requires constant networking. Use the science of your own brain to design a life that feels natural and enjoyable.
Third, use the explore-exploit trade-off. If you are young or you feel like you're losing, be a scientist. Cast a wide net and gather data. If you are winning, double down on what works. And no matter what, always keep that 20% side project alive to keep exploring.
And fourth, design your own game. If you can't be the best, be the only. Stack your top 25% skills like Scott Adams did. Be the best corporate cartoonist, not just a mediocre artist or a mediocre business person. Create your niche.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, work hard on the right things. Don't let genetics be an excuse for laziness. Let them be a compass that points you toward the things where your hard work will be rewarded most handsomely.
I want to leave you with one final thought, one final image. The source material talks about the concept of the virtuous cycle. When you pick the right habit, the one that fits your nature, your genetics, your personality, progress, feels, well, it's not always easy, but it feels right, you get results. Those results give you a little hit of dopamine. That makes you feel motivated. You want to do more. The work fuels you.
Versus the vicious cycle. Picking the wrong habit, struggling constantly, seeing no results, feeling like a failure, and eventually, inevitably quitting.
Exactly. So here is the challenge we want to leave you with. For the next week, stop looking at what everyone else is doing to succeed. Stop looking at the runners if you have a swimmer's body. Take a real honest look in the mirror. Look at your metaphorical inseam, your personality traits, the things that make you lose track of time, and ask yourself, what game was I actually built to play?
And once you find it, play it with everything you've got.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go find your water. We'll see you next time.